Hey guys, it's Maiden, and today I'm going to be doing something a little bit differently. I'm going to be reading the Guilds of Hynafol PDF. These are the official guilds. There are player-made guilds, so if you are thinking about joining Hynafol or making your own guild, that is possible. But these are just the guilds that are on here, the official guilds. There are 20 of them. And without further ado, I will get to reading. So first up is Ordo Cervi, otherwise known as the Order of the Stag. Its heraldry is the stag. Its colors are green, beige, red, and gold. The primary religion is the Holy Shoe. Its allies are the Marchwardens and Nova Vitae. Its enemies are, and forgive my pronunciation throughout this document, Legionum, Crownless Royals, and Drungloft. Its suggested peoples are all. Its goals are to restore peace and prosperity to the lands and people that were once connected by Hynafol, to use their military might and wealth as a means to destroy those who would do evil. Its goals are to restore peace and prosperity to the lands and people that were once connected by Hynafol, to use their military might and wealth as a means to destroy those who would do evil. Its history: Ordo Cervi, the Order of the Stag, was formed as a guild to bring many people left without a lord or kingdom to protect them in the aftermath of the cataclysm. Initially, the guild was a mix of merchants, artisans, and displaced explorers. Formed with the intent of bringing others in need into their ranks, the guild quickly grew in numbers, and a military force was formed. As their numbers grew, so did their influence, and they quickly morphed into one of the most influential guilds in the region. Its characteristics: at first glance, the Ordo Cervi does not look like your traditional military force. The guild and the lands that it inhabits have become a gathering place for those without a home or a land. When Ordo musters its ranks, you'll see warriors donning armor and weapons from many peoples and cultures. On the battlefield, Ordo Cervi will defend its people and lands fiercely, but they are not all business all the time. As denoted by the majority of their members being adherents of the Holy Shoe, these folk celebrate their victories and revel in their differences that have brought them together. Their motivations: the members of Ordo Cervi seek to have peace in all the lands that were once connected to Hynafol. They are committed to bringing prosperity to their lands and their neighbors. Everywhere they go, the Holy Shoe brings with them a spirit of merriment and camaraderie. Next is the Marchwardens, otherwise known as Keepers of the March. Their heraldry is the Thunderhawk. Their colors are black, purple, and yellow. Their primary religion is Children of the Ash. Their allies are Ordo Cervi and Nova Vitae. Their enemies are Mor Ladrona, Sleipnir's fjord, and its suggested peoples are all. Their goals: to defend the March, even though it is less than valuable land. It is a wide expanse of large territory and it belongs to them. Additionally, it is home to one of their better trade ports on the continent. To seek the return of the Thunderhawk that used to reside in the March, to undo the damage of the cataclysm. Its history: the Marchwardens came from a people who believe in the way of the giants. They were given the title of wardens by the Old Ones, as they were keepers of the land. The old ways long gone, the Marchwardens still keep the land of the March, and have since turned their beloved homeland into a thriving port. The Wardens have become quite prosperous, which has given them the ability to spread their reach and search for the path to return to their old ways. The damage caused by the cataclysm has made their way of life all the more difficult, so now they use their skills and wealth to aid in undoing what was done. Their characteristics: the Marchwardens primarily come from a thriving port in their homeland. Years of sailing and working the seas has given them a skill set that translates well to the battlefield. The Marchwardens make excellent skirmishers and archers due to their natural roguish charm. Although they sail, they fight, they're clever, and they drink, never call them pirates. They are, of course, privateers. Professionals who earn their wealth through legal, albeit cunning, means. Their motivations: they wish to go back to a time as when Arthur reigned, when there was peace and knowledge of the old ways was accessible. They seek prosperity through commerce and guile. They await the return of the Thunderhawk to its rightful home in the March. The next guild is Nova Vitae, otherwise known as New Life. Its heraldry is the winged horse. Its colors are gold, dark blue, and white. Its primary religion is unknown. Its allies are Ordo Cervi and Solis Caligo. Its enemies are Legionum and Sleipnir's fjord. Its suggested peoples are all. Its goals: to fight for freedom for all of Hynafol, to protect the downtrodden, subjugated, or forgotten people of the land, to restore the lands to the times of peace as during Arthur's reign, and ensure that, when restored, the systems in place are just and fair. Nova Vitae is composed of those that have been exiled, outcast, or escaped from enslavement. From all over the land, free people flock to this group of warriors that have grown in numbers since the founding members escaped their previously desperate fate. Hearing of the victory of the kingdoms in the northern lands, Nova Vitae journeyed to gather more of those that had been freed by an evil empire. Finally, they settled into lands of their own, where they have given freedom to all who join their cause. Characteristics: those of the Nova Vitae are well known to have the face and smile of new life. Bright gold, blue, and white show off their spirit. Proud of their freedom, they often adorn themselves with feathers, horse manes, or runic face paint. Symbolic of their ability to run and fly free, their sigil, the winged horse, epitomizes this ideology. Nova Vitae invites all who wish to live in a land of free, merry, and inspired warriors. These freedom fighters are committed to wrecking any effort to subjugate, enslave, or prey on the misfortune of others. Their motivations? They will not rest until they stop those who would subjugate or enslave and ensure that Hynafol is a place of freedom. They oppose all who would stand for tyranny and oppression. Next is the Hynafol, otherwise known as the Legion of the Sun. Its heraldry is the scales of justice, its colors black and orange, its primary religion the torch-bearers, its allies unknown, and enemies unknown. Its suggested peoples are all. Its goals: to first and foremost enact justice, protect the people of Hynafol from those who may do evil, to stand for peace and justice, which can only be established through rule of law. Its history: the Hynafol are a militarized faction who believe that justice and order are paramount. They respond whenever they believe events have gotten out of control and may be beyond the scope of what those involved may be able to handle. Knights take it upon themselves to organize and take on these larger threats that the Commonwealth are unable to address. These events can range from large-scale assaults from other guilds, or it may be to take down large monsters that threaten nearby villagers, or even root out some corruption among the other guilds. Its characteristics: Hynafol prioritizes the concept of justice over the letter of the law. In the eyes of one of their knights, the spirit of justice is the highest form of good, for everything that is graced by the rays of the sun is worthy of joy. It is commonplace for a knight to step in when they see a victim unable to help themselves, even from the local law of the land, especially if they believe the law is unjust in that scenario. The Hynafol pride themselves on being the first to run in and defend those who are unable to defend themselves from the unjust. Its motivations: as the mist began to clear, the Hynafol rushed to be the sole word of justice in the land. No amount of lawlessness in the entire world would satiate these knights' hunger for justice, and from their perspective, Hynafol is currently filled with chaos. The next guild is Legionum, otherwise known as the Legion of the Empire. Its heraldry is the double-headed wolf, its colors blue and purple, its primary religion Invictus. Its allies are Sleipnir's Fjord and Hroyland. Its enemies are Ordo Cervi and Nova Vitae. Its suggested peoples are human. Its goals are to re-establish their former empire, to ensure that Hynafol is never ruled by one person again, to research and obtain any power that may reside in Hynafol. Its history: Legionum, or the Legion, as they are often referred to, are the last remnants of a once great empire that stretched from a foreign land well into the continent after the time of the Cataclysm. As that empire waned, legend has it that only one battalion of their soldiers remained, forever hopeful for the return of their beloved empire. In the years since the empire's collapse, Legionum have worked tirelessly to repair their strength, increase their numbers, and see order once again return to the continent. Its characteristics: above all things, the Legionum prizes making order out of chaos. They despise all things that do not fall in line or are outside what they consider the natural order. They take great pride in the relics of their empire that can be found from the very small to the large walls, roads, and structures that their forebears built, though they could scarcely tell you how they were constructed nor why their empire fell. As all soldiers, however, they have their vices, and at Hynafol you can often find them in the pubs in the evening. Its motivations: the Legion believes that there is only one way to peace, and that is through order. The Legionum seeks to bring balance back to the continent, not by magic, nor by the power of Hynafol, but by the order that only the Legionnaires can bring. The Legion is no fan of the stories of this Arthur character, and if the mist should open, they will side with whomever can bring the most order and structure to the continent. The next guild is the Torst Drukar, otherwise known as Adventure Home. Its heraldry is an anvil encircled in rays. Its colors are brown, blue, and green. Its primary religion is Hellion. Its allies are Manatu Vandor and Solis Caligo. Its enemies are Crownless Royals and Hroyland. Its suggested peoples are the Dwarf. Its goals are to nurture and reap the bounties of the land, and ensure that Hynafol doesn't fall to those that would disturb their work and homes in the earth, to bring honor, wealth, renown to their people through their trade and workings of natural resources, to live and serve under the guidance and protection of the earth and sun. Its history: proud, strong, and hardy, the dwarves believe themselves to have been wrought from the earth by the very sun himself. The sun, whom they worship and call many names, the most common being Solis, set them upon the earth to bring out the most wondrous works of stone, metal, and gems from the earth. When Solis created the first of their kind, he used a flaming, still molten, and malleable ruby as their heart. And so it is said that the heart of every dwarf burns with the love of the earth and gems. The dwarves make their homes in halls of wondrous stone deep underground in the mountains, carving intricate tunnels, massive halls, as well as home and hearth throughout a weaving complex in the heart of the mountains. Contrary to tall tales told about them, however, the dwarves often come to the surface and are not a subterranean people. Through their endless study of the earth and its component parts, they have gained vast knowledge about how to work metals, gems, and other natural resources. Its characteristics: these guild members live on the land around and inside the mountains, their lives so devoted to the earth and its bounty that they age slower than most. A guild known for their stubborn nature and cynicism, though those negatives were often contrasted nicely by their bravery and tenacity. Living and working from the mines and caves of the mountains to hone their individual crafts. While not everyone in the guild holds the religion to high esteem, it is commonplace to still wear the symbol and be seen in temples. Becoming an ally to this guild is difficult, but once the alliance is made, it holds strong as a mountain, as long as you do not betray its people in any way, for they will remember. Its motivations: the protection and preservation of their work under the earth from anything that would disturb their progress, especially dragons, to work the lands of Hynafol in search of knowledge and natural riches. The next guild is Sellar's Keep, otherwise known as Mercenaries of the Shadows. Their heraldry is the faceless mask. Their colors are black and silver. Their primary religion is Arcadia. Its allies are Morladrona and Crownless Royals. Its enemies are the Lang Hall. Its suggested peoples are all. Its goals: to gain and maintain secretive important information and build relations to use as power. To fulfill orders placed with the guild, whatever the task may be. To ensure that those in systems of power don't get too comfortable with their status and standing. Its history: a guild who lives in the shadows, at the fireside of countless camps, possibly even in your own home. This guild operates in secret. Although its members may be known, their missions are kept close to the chest. Known to be a group of mercenaries, professional soldiers, scientists, magicians, scholars, healers, and assassins for hire in any job they deem will advance their guild in power. Its characteristics: a group of highly skilled individuals taking laws and societal norms in their own hands. Some call them vandals, outcasts, vigilantes, while others call them miracle workers. Fighters for freedom, brothers in arms. As a part of this guild, you are sworn to the secrecy of other members, and of the inner functions and workings of the political and information systems. Once an order has been placed with this guild, as a member, you will receive tasks you must complete or be exiled from the guild. Its motivations: they wish to maintain their secret influence on the land and its peoples without giving themselves away, to pay homage to and respect the way of the shadows. The next guild is Hynafol, otherwise known as People of the Carnival. Its heraldry is the sparrow clutching an apple. Its colors are orange, blue, and purple. Its primary religion is Cleona. Its allies are most, and its enemies are Hroyland. Its suggested peoples are all. Its goals are to bring art, music, and joy to the land of Hynafol, to host the most entertaining show in the land, to use their charm and guise to garner secrets about Hynafol from the public. Its history: when looking to find the true history of the guild, little is found beyond speculations. The only fact known is a deal was made between the founders and the goddess Cleona, a goddess of love and beauty, who is said to have 3 brightly colored birds who eat apples from an otherworldly tree, and whose sweet song heals the sick people. a guild filled with the top performers from all lands. Music, poetry, acting, painting, and all forms of the arts are practiced by this brightly colored and lively guild. Its characteristics? You can pick out a carnival performer by the brightly worn colors of their garb, as well as by the small symbols of a bird or an apple. They have also been known to put on random performances outside of the norm in marketplaces, meeting halls, even classrooms, just to cause a bit of joyful chaos. Its motivations? The members of this guild are often hired out as bards and writers by all the kingdoms outside of Carnival, spreading music, happiness, and stories all across the land. The next guild is the Voiaj Mereu, otherwise known as Forever Traveling. Its heraldry is the 7 stars, its colors maroon, beige, and purple. The primary religion is the Lady. Its allies are none, its enemies are none, and their suggested peoples are all. Its goals? To come to Hynafol looking for all that is and was, to gain much from simply walking through, working and bartering, to seek and obtain old relics and tomes that are known to be hidden in the world of Hynafol. Its history? This guild is for those who don't have a place to fit in. Maybe you're an outcast. You're a hermit that needs company. You're a natural traveler who can't stay in one place for long. Or your original people are now gone. Your lands, gods, and homes have been stripped away. The Voiaj Mereu is ready to welcome you with open arms. They commonly travel in caravans, small groups, and little found families. They have no lands of their own nor lay claim to any specific area. Their lives are constantly on the move, making connections across the land with other travelers, and creating a system of information gathering across all the kingdoms. Its characteristics? The earthly people of this guild take great pride in their worship of the earth and the animals that inhabit it. Shying away from violence, it is a peaceful guild, practiced in herbology, soothsaying, and the ways of nature. Considering trees as sacred, particularly the oak, this guild is described as a shamanic religion. It relies on holistic medicines from their master herbalists and contact with the spirit world in order to treat and sometimes cause illnesses. Its motivations? The Voiaj Mereu seeks to continue their peaceful lifestyle, promote peace within the lands, and nurture all manners of life. The next guild is called Mor Ladrona, otherwise known as Thieves of the Sea. Its heraldry is the octopus, its colors red, beige, and brown. Its primary religion is Calypso. Its allies are Sleipnir's fjord and Noctum Caligo. Its enemies are the Marchwardens and Lang Hall. Its suggested peoples are human and elf. Its goals are to plunder Hynafol of any treasures that can be found, to build and ascertain ships, to control the waters around Hynafol, to live the pirate life to the full extent of the term. Its history? A guild of the seafaring people, those who make their living from the bounties given from the sea and the bounties taken from folks of the land passing through their seas. This rowdy group, led by a pirate queen, is made up of thieves, soldiers, mercenaries, and sailors alike, who have devoted their lives to chaos, excitement, adventure, and the constant search of treasures. Its characteristics? Members of this guild often have a rough and ready appearance that shows off their criminal lifestyle, rogue personalities, and adventurous seafaring pursuits. While many spend their days in search of treasure, many ships are said to be lost looking for the many hidden isles of legend. For finding these lands and coming home with stories may be enough to clear your name of crimes you've caused in the past. When these folk come onto land, they are known to be rowdy and have a strong love for drink, chaos, and gambling. They can often be found taking over pubs and bars and leading crowds in sea songs. These nights can quickly turn into brawls between rivaling crews. Its motivations? The pursuit of adventure and battle in the name of bountiful wealth, to rise in the ranks of their crew and guild to become captains in their own right. The next guild is the Solis Caligo, otherwise known as Sun Mist. Its heraldry is Tree of Life inside the sun. Its colors are greens and yellow. Its primary religion is Cernunnos. Its allies are Torst Trukar and Minato Vandor. Its enemies are Legionum and Hroidland. Its suggested peoples are the Fae. Its goals are to gather demi-humans and other Fae folk from other lands and realms to help in the quest to reclaim and rejuvenate Hynafol's power, to find protection and respite from those that would do them harm, to discover their origins and, as much as possible, the truth about the Feywilds. Its history? Solis Caligo is a guild of, primarily, otherworldly sun fae formed in the Feywilds. The members are as beautiful and seductive as they can be terrible and deadly. When these day fae are seen, they always look like everyday peoples, humans, elves, and dwarves with distinctive characteristics that clearly set them apart. They always have the distinctive ears of their fae form, but may also have the ears or accents of their animal form. Flowers may grow from their skin, or they may be covered in other fanciful markings that set them apart. Part of the leftover effects of the Feywilds is their ability to increase or decrease the Fey characteristics at will, in a process they call glamour. The Solis Caligo are tightly connected to the elements of nature, so while they can be beautiful, they also hold a bit of savagery behind them. The members of this guild are oath-bound to their word. However, that does not mean they follow the laws placed by others, but are known to trick many into deals and oaths. They're avid storytellers, though will be just as happy to tell you a story that is true as they would one they make up. This guild welcomes all who are lost, abused, rejected, or so forgotten. They often recreate new members' stories into grandiose tales to be shared in the form of song. Its characteristics? The Solis Caligo is a guild primarily as they call themselves Day Fae, light, bright, and cheery in nature. However, you should not take them lightly, as they will merrily trick you into giving them their way. There are also members of the Solis Caligo that are not Fae, but have been taken in for various reasons. Its motivations? The Solis Caligo seek for many things: to establish a home in the new lands they find themselves, to discover their origin, and to protect the innocent and downtrodden as many of the members once were. The next guild is called the Noctum Caligo, otherwise known as Night Mist. Its heraldry is the tree of life inside the moon. Its colors, green, silver, and purple. Its primary religion is Aluna. Its allies are Hellfire, Minatu Vandor, and Torstrukar. Its enemies are the Strongloft and Hroyland. Its suggested peoples are the Fae. Its goals are to bring back the power of Hynafol for their own uses. Its history? These are the demi-humans that haunt many good folks' dreams, make you fear walking alone at night, and raise the hair on your neck. Many of the stories surrounding Noctum Caligo are misunderstandings caused by their appearance. Other stories are completely true. The Noctum Caligo is a guild of primarily, but not all, Night Fae. Dark, mysterious, and dangerous, these demi-humans have no problem fighting back against those that stand against them. The internal workings and motivations of the guild are largely secret. From their arrival on the continent, the Noctum Caligo have been in nearly constant battles with many religions and churches, causing some to speculate that they are controlled by a dark force. The guild has settled primarily in a deep forest at the base of a large mountain. Visitors are rarely accepted, but you will find members of Noctum Caligo across the continent conducting business and visiting other kingdoms. Its characteristics? The Noctum Caligo is a guild of primarily Night Fae, as they often refer to themselves, but there are members that descend from other peoples across the continent that have taken up their cause. The Night Fae also have the after effects of the Feywilds and can change their appearance slightly with glamour. As with their day cousins, they largely retain a mostly human appearance, with Fae ears nearly always showing, along with the other distinguishing features of the Night Fae. Its motivations? Noctum Caligo follow no rules except their own. They follow their own ambitions to create the world they wish to live in. The next guild is Sleipnir's Fjord, otherwise known as the Inlet of Odin's Horse. Its heraldry is the eight-legged horse. Its colors are black and brown. Its primary religion is the Old Way, Loki. Its allies are Morladrona, Hellfire, and the Crownless Royals. Its enemies are the Marchwardens and Lang Hall. Its suggested peoples are human. Its goals? To find riches and liberate those riches from others, to use the liberated riches to grow their numbers, to unite the other Northmanthers into a kingdom of their own. Its history? After breaking away from Strongloft, those of Sleipnir's Fjord found home in frigid and watery lands of the continent. They made their homes along the rocky shores and inlets, but found little solace in their newfound lands. Hating the idea of settling down, these people seek to find solace and success in continued excursion and pillages as they raid. These raiders love their boats, often their most prized possessions, and set off in them to find fortune, honor, and glory in battle with others. As their name suggests, these warriors charge into battle like an eight-legged horse, nothing to fear and beatings to dole out upon their enemies. Its characteristics? Forever rabble-rousing, these Vikings tend to pick up opportunities at random. Inopportune raids and senseless mercenary quests alike, this guild is not to be trifled with lightly. Often dressed in darker materials with accents of bright colors, their dress reflects their personalities, strong-willed and wild. Its motivations: the members of Sleipnir's fjord desire many things at once: fame, wealth, glory, and power. They go where the wind blows them in search of riches and adventure. The next guild is the Strongloft, otherwise known as Strict Vows. Its heraldry is the winged axe. Its colors are blue and brown. Its primary religion is the Old Way Thor. Its allies are the Jument Sauvage and the Pulerum Acolytes. Its enemies are Mor Ladrona and the Legionum. Its suggested peoples are human. Its goals are to create their own kingdom on the continent, to acquire rich lands to expand into, to give their mightiest warriors lands of their own, to use the powers of Hynafol as a means to an end. Its history: the oldest raider guild in the land. Settling for a time in the lands of other guilds, they finally landed on fertile ground of their own. The Strongloft believe in the traditions of their ancestors, follow closely their ways of life, and honor their forebears where possible. They do things the old way and worship the old gods, Thor foremost among them. They found power early on through conquering and venturing to plunder resources, creating many enemies before they finally conquered a land they could call their own. In the latter years since, however, these raiders have turned more to settling and building their cultures into the lands they conquer. However, their allies often look to them for leadership in times of struggle. Never once to turn down a fight, they are ferocious with the round shield, the axe, and the sword. Its characteristics: subdued compared to their cousins in Sleipnir's fjord, these folk wear simpler clothing and less extravagant jewelry. They seek to live simple lives, enjoying their families. They wear traditional clothing to their way of life, but can be seen brandishing golden armbands and necklaces paying homage to Thor's Mjolnir. Nevertheless, they are fearsome, organized, and devastating warriors, whether they are taking land for their families or defending themselves against other kingdoms. Its motivations: forever looking to expand their lands, they see an opportunity to potentially join forces and gain allies as a possibility of plunder. Knowing there was another way to gain power and riches meant yet another excursion to these warriors. The next guild is Menatu Vandor, otherwise known as Knowledge Forest. Its heraldry is the laurel encircling tomes. Its colors are green, blue, and silver. Its primary religion is Aluna. Its allies are Tors Drukar and the Pulerum Acolytes. Its enemies are Legionum and Hroyland. Its suggested peoples are Elf. Its goals: to bring the discovered tome from the Grand Library to Hynafol in search of its origin, answers, and missing pages. To establish a basis of trade in knowledge with those traveling from unknown lands to Hynafol, and bring back stories to expand the known world, to progress forth in their achievements. Its history: elves are believed to be one of the oldest peoples of the continent. They age much slower than other peoples, are much less concerned with the day-to-day functions of the rest of the world, and have fewer children. Their numbers have never returned to their former amounts since the Cataclysm. The Menatu Vandor hold themselves in the highest esteem, taking great pride in their grand library. Before the Cataclysm, it was by far the largest library in all the kingdoms. It held stories told from the beginning of time. Only elves, and especially members of Menatu Vandor, are allowed to enter the library. And only scholars that have contributed to the library's collection of tomes may enter its inner sanctuary where vast depths of knowledge are held. After the Cataclysm, the Menatu Vandor lost their oldest and most prestigious members, as they never returned from Hynafol. To those that remained, a greater loss was felt. Their tomes, books, and scrolls about the continent and other parts of the world remained intact. However, the information about Hynafol was lost. These tomes written in Hynafol were clearly magical in nature. With the disappearance of the mist, so the writings of Hynafol also disappeared. Its characteristics: to these elves, information is like currency. It is mandatory for members of this guild to have ventured off at least once and brought back a tome of their own creation to be added into the library. Once done, they may earn the sash of a scholar, allowing one to enter the Grand Library to continue their studies. Many spend years seeing how far back in history their story can reach. Every advancement in knowledge you bring back from off the island will raise your status. Occupations range from library assistants, tutors, professors, to scientists practicing their experimentations. A peaceful and intelligent group, they believe all arguments can come to a compromise through thorough debate and politics, though with their long lives, those debates can span decades. Its motivations? The High Elves discovered a tome deep in the dark underbelly of the Grand Library, seeming to hold secrets to why the guilds have been summoned to Hynafol once the messengers returned with their announcement. The tome itself, missing pages faded and burned, is held closely by the guild as they adventure to Hynafol. Some to continue their knowledge, others making their first venture to earn their tome. The next guild is Hellfire, otherwise known as Students of the Mist. Its heraldry is tome on fire. Its colors are black and maroon. Its primary religion is Salazar. Its allies are Solis Caligo, Noctum Caligo, and Menatu Vandor. Its enemies are Hroyland, and its suggested peoples are all. Its goals are to bring magic back to the land, to ensure that when Hynafol is restored, the magic that may come with it is returned to their land, to seek out the magic and magical artifacts that may remain at Hynafol. Its history? This guild comes from a place that used to be home to some of the most powerful mages, wizards, and magic users on the continent. The kingdom that once flourished here was renowned for their use of artifacts that gave great power and influence to the kingdom. When the cataclysm happened and the mist was closed, that kingdom quickly deteriorated into obscurity. Only a small group remained to pick up the pieces of the once majestic kingdom. Little is known about how Hellfire has been recuperating or how successful they have been in their search for magic. Its characteristics? The desire for magic has reached all of the peoples of the continent, and this guild reflects that in its members. They come from all peoples of the land, humans, elves, dwarves, fae, united in their desire to lay claim to magic once again. Robes often make up their everyday dress. Crystals that may contain power are worked into their jewelry. Tomes that were once powerful spellbooks are all coveted by the members as they hope and seek for relics and items of power. Its motivations? Hellfire desires to get their hands on magical power one way or another. The guild is united in its desire for magic, but only time will tell if it can remain united in returning magic to their land, and all of the lands of the continent, or if its members will attempt to use magic for their own benefit. The next guild is the Crownless Royals, otherwise known as the Court of Exiles. Its heraldry is a sickle behind a royal chess piece. Its colors are gold and purple. Its primary religion is Tempus. Its allies are Hroyland, Legionum, and Sellers Keep. Its enemies are Lang Hull and Menatu Vandor. Its suggested peoples are all. Its goals? To return to their ancestors' once prominent positions of nobility, to recruit those who feel dispossessed of their lands or titles to their cause, to gain a strong foothold in the politics of Hynafol, and ensure their beliefs are ingrained in the systems to come. Its history? The Crownless Royals come from assorted kingdoms and found one another in a remote and desolate part of the continent. These outcasts now inhabit abandoned ruins. For one reason or another, these nobles were dispossessed of their lands, and most do not feel that their current home is a true one. Together, however, they have created a court of practical importance. This guild has been around for centuries and are eager to take on newly dispossessed nobles. Its characteristics? The guild is run by a council. This council determines and enforces law as a court, and typically consists of a diverse representation of the Crownless Royals. While this group believes in stratification, they are here without their feudal subjects and treat each other with a sense of formal equality when it most suits them. Legally, they get things done efficiently and rely on the written word. Though the Crownless Royals do not have their subjects, they have developed a system in which they always have an army on the ready to move when the time is right. They are also not above hiring mercenaries to further their ambitions. Each member of this guild has signed the Pledge of Verity, which establishes their rights and protects them from tyrannical leadership that they do not want. The Court of Crownless Royals tends to run seamlessly. They have set up a system and follow it, often making them appear more organized than other guilds. Indeed, they have among them more experience in courtly affairs than any other guild and are most open to the idea of advantageous political marriages, seeing spycraft as an art form and being patrons of both art and war whenever possible. The appearance of generosity, even in lean times, is of utmost importance, and it has created a camaraderie among this group. Its motivations? Some need vengeance. Others have been traumatized by war. A few have run away to avoid unseemly situations or scandals. Though different, their longing for civilization creates a uniformity. Coming to Hynafol, they seek to expound upon this and garner titles for themselves. The next guild is the Pulerum Acolytes, otherwise known as the Philosophers of Logic. Their heraldry is the hourglass inside a circle. Their colors are red and blue. Their primary religion is Tempest. Their allies are Strong Luft and Manatu Vander. Their enemies are Sellar's Keep and Sleipnir's Fjord, and their suggested peoples are human and elf. Its goals are to uncover the hidden truth of the world. Its history: in the mountains sprawl tall spires, vast gardens, and most importantly, oratoriums and meeting stadiums. The city of Pulerum houses some of the most elite philosophers and politicians in the world. From the study of continental economics to infinitesimal life cycles, the people of Pulerum have the most curious society on the continent. Knowing there is a reason behind every assumption, belief, and action, they would debate and pick apart all sides of a scenario. Acolytes from this intellectual area have joined together to venture to Hynafol. Knowing that much can be ascertained from other cultures, and longing to study others, they look to be logic of the land. Its characteristics: so often do these folks stand about and speak that they rarely have such use for armors and working clothes, but would rather wear robes and silks or lavish colored felts. They are conversationalists and thinkers. Though they may enjoy grand debate, they are not all talk. The acolytes use their silver tongues and intelligence to spread their influence across the world. Their motivations: there's not only much to learn from a gathering of other cultures, but also much to influence. There is yearning for these folk to branch out beyond the politics of their own land, but meddle in others as well. The next guild is the Jument Sauvage, forgive my pronunciation, otherwise known as the Voiaj Mereu. Its heraldry is the crossed arrows behind a horse. Its colors are brown, white, and tan. Its primary religion is Buddha Helia. Its allies are the Strong Luft and Torst Drukar. Its enemies are Legionum and Morladrona. Its suggested peoples are all. Its goals are to be the strongest force of women-led warriors in the land, to reclaim the ways of the horse, and strike down any patriarchal hierarchy, to trade with Strong Luft for young, displaced female warriors. Its history: these Celtic warrior women are often viewed as an immoral, uncivilized society. The Jument Sauvage knows this is only held by peoples to help them rationalize their subjugation of other people. A fierce band of warriors led by women, the Jument Sauvage have known their share of subjugation. This guild formed originally when one woman with her daughters rode on a war chariot and led her people in a vengeful fight for freedom from patriarchy and misogyny in their kingdom. This founding warrior, Boudica, wore a golden torque and multicolored tunic, hair the color of a lion's mane that fell to her hips, and carried a spear. Boudica led her daughters and all who would join their cause to victory and never looked back. This guild knows no gender distinctions. Men and women share everything in common, including glory on the battlefield. However, where they progress in equality, they have not progressed as far in civilization. Other guilds, such as the Crownless Royals, look down on their more primitive nature. Boudica has now become the name for the highest woman of power, often being decided through pageants, trials, and battles to find the rightful owner to the title. Many women train their whole life to achieve this title, even going so far as to remove one breast so as not to be impeded from drawing back their bows. It is an honor in the guild to be given the name, and all the responsibility and power that comes with it. Its characteristics: a guild known for its brutality, strength, and concurring ability. They are a fierce people, commonly adorned with furs, braided hair, painted faces, and a strong constitution. Celtic knots and symbols decorate their jewelry, armor, and art. The war horses are of legend, and the warrior's ability to wield a bow upon horseback is unmatched. Trained in ranged combat, these fighters tend to wield bows and spears. Its motivations: they come to show other people the way of their culture. Though they might be small in number at home, they are always seeking to add to these free and bountiful lives with more of their own. The next guild is called Hroyland, otherwise known as the Call of Roland. Its heraldry is the hand-gripping and oliphant horn. Its colors are black and yellow. Its primary religion is Melarcana. Its allies are Legionum and Crownless Royals. Its enemies are Solis Caligo, Noctum Caligo, and Hellfire. Its suggested peoples are human. Its goals: to never again let magic loose on the world, to keep other kingdoms and guilds from using magic to pollute the world. Its history: the members of Hroyland were a loyal people defending the southern lands from all manner of raiders, pirates, and invasive armies. They were committed to keeping their lands and those to the north safe from invasion. Other guilds and kingdoms would come to Hroyland's aid when their leader would blow the magic Oliphant horn to sound the alarm. Before the cataclysm, help never failed to arrive. After the cataclysm, the lands of the continent were thrown into disarray, and the lands of Hroyland were an easy target. The leaders of Hroyland repeatedly called for help from the surrounding kingdoms and guilds. Finally, an invading and marauding army was on their doorstep. Down to the last warrior, the members of Hroyland defended their shore from the attackers until their leader, atop his horse, blew his Oliphant horn so loud and for so long that his temples burst and he perished. The horn did not work, and most of the members of Hroyland did not survive the battle. From that day on, the surviving members of Hroyland knew two things. They would never rely on magic again, and they would never rely on others for their survival. Its characteristics: adorned in plain, earthly toned colors, the people of this land show their status by the amount of gold and silver they wear. Chains, circlets, and even painted tattoos representing their wealth without wizardry, mined from the earth itself with working hands rather than magical crafting. Its motivations? Hroyland never wants to see magic relied upon again, nor its effects felt anywhere. They abhor magic and all of its effects, and desire for the peoples of the continent to rely upon one another instead of magic. And that was the Hynafol guild list. Remember that players can make their own guilds, and these are only the official guilds that don't include player-made ones. You can also be guildless, so you don't necessarily need to pick a guild. And I believe you can join or leave a guild when you do actually go to Hynafol. So if you start off guildless, you can join a guild there, or you don't like your guild, you can leave it there. I think there might be ceremonies to leave or different things like that, but yeah. I hope this was helpful for anyone who hasn't had a chance to read the PDF in its entirety, or you're interested in Hynafol and you wanted to know more about it. I also hope it was a little entertaining. Next week I'm going to be at Dark Tides, but there is a video queued up for next week. Thank you guys for watching and listening, and I hope to see you in the next video. Take care.